Chapter 4. The most unfortunate person in the world also has her moments of joy. The person who should be the happiest also has her troubles. Both the favored youngest daughter of General Titus and the second child. 10 years old is the most beautiful time of life to have this kind of double happiness. Cessna, who is not a factor, has been plagued by worries these days. In the middle of the night, Cessna and other female students in the dormitory fell asleep. Finally, a person got up from the bed, slipped out of the dormitory quietly, and walked quickly. Walk out of the campus of Inner Mongolia University, and then, along the already empty. The streets of people come outside of the parks in the city. She crossed the fence of the park wall, jumped into the garden, and ran directly to the side of Lion Tiger Mountain. She leans on a liger. A rock beyond the mountain wall sits and looks at the stars with dark eyes. The glittering dark blue night sky, listening sadly and lost in the dark. The roar of the swaying liger. Just like spring in the Inner Mongolia Plateau always comes very late. Cessna had her first erotic dream when she was 16. She dreamed of herself, fresh from bathing in a clear snow river with light blue water hanging. Dazzling light waves flowed from Ju's white body. At this time, just like a golden male leopard rushing out from the setting sun in the sky, she flung herself down among a field of snow-white wildflowers. Male leopards have heavy front legs. Stepping on her chest, the cold claws tore her deeply. Beautiful breasts, the blood splashed reddened the white wildflowers. She screamed in pain, while her plump legs were voluptuous. In the twisting and turning of the male leopard, he couldn't help but tightly wrapped around the male leopard's body. After this first erotic dream, Cessna began to pay attention to. Noticed that men's eyes were full of lust, often from her face. Up, from her breasts, buttocks, even between her legs under her belly. Gone there. But this did not excite Cessna. But it only cast a faint shadow of sadness on her heart. For the eyes of those men are like rats in dark caves. As cowardly as peeping into the sun, lust in those eyes. Dirty like the old voyeur she saw in a magazine photo. The passion in the eyes of the addict. Occasionally, she also encounters serious gaze, yet she could see from that Puritan-like gaze. Deep down, a sticky mist of desire feels. In the vast sea of people, Cessna is looking for a pair of daring. You look directly into her man's eyes fiery. However, she only got disappointed. In anxious anticipation, her heart seems to be haggardly emaciated. She even thought that even an old man with white hair like snow, as long as he can look straight at her majestically for a moment, she will be desperate to fall in love with him. In early autumn 3 years ago, Cessna had just been admitted to Inner Mongolia University. A long time ago, a senior boy majoring in ballet in the art department began to pursue her passionately. The boy is tall and a dancer. The typical handsome and well-proportioned figure and the eyes are watching her. Sometimes, it is also very hot. However, Cessna felt that the boy, his eyes, bright as they were, seemed hollow, lacking some energy. The mood of the wild set her heart on fire. Once, Cessna told him frankly, "I cannot love you, I love." "The storm blows over the wasteland, and you don't see it in your eyes," she said. A few days after this sentence, the boy cut off his words on the boulevard of the campus, stopped her, and said excitedly and tragically, "I know, you mistakenly think that I lack manly courage. You are wrong, I want to prove to you. To illustrate this point, if 2 days later, it is Saturday, you still don't promise to love me, I'll jump into a liger in the park when the sun goes down. Mountains, fighting with beasts. Even if I was bitten to death, even if my life fate sinks with the sun, and I will not hesitate." At that time, Cessna tried her best to make herself attracted to that boy. "Move, but I can't find any feeling that can make my heart beat rapidly." "Sleep." Moreover, she found that the passionate excitement in the boy's eyes. Love is like the sun painted on the glass. As long as you stretch out your hand, you can erase that passion. Cessna didn't know what to say for a moment. She just smiling apologetically, like a frightened wild deer, moving lightly. Gia's long legs ran away from the boy. The next day she just forget about it completely. On that Saturday afternoon, the school specially invited Inner Mongolia to sing and dancing. Wu Yun, the deputy head of the troupe and a famous female dancer, came to enlighten the dance major. Students in the ancient dance class teach Mongolian dance skills. Wu Yun and Cessna. Father, General Tegus, was a close friend for many years, so Cessna. She knew Wu Yun very early, and because of Wu Yun's influence, I applied for the university's dance major before I graduated from middle school. Career, and was exceptionally admitted with outstanding dance talent. Admitted to Inner Mongolia. At the beginning of the ancient university, Cessna was assigned to the ballet class, but Sina quickly requested the school and transferred to the Mongolian dance class. Because she doesn't like the overly stylized dance moves of ballet. Ballet dancers, in particular, have their feet deformed due to having to dance on point. It was as ugly as a sweet potato, which made her unacceptable. When I think of the dancing posture of bud dance is jumped out by deformed feet, the beauty of dancing. It was destroyed. After transferring to the Mongolian dance class, Cessna was able to listen to lecture to the dark clouds. For 3 years, as long as Wu Yun was invited to give lectures, Sina is never absent. However, this Saturday afternoon, but Na has been unable to concentrate on listening to Wu Yun's lecture. Open. At first, she didn't know why, when the sun shone into the classroom. When it landed rotten on her desk, she thought of the boy 2 days ago. What the student said. Oh, it's just this evening, he might jump into that Lion-Tiger Mountain, fight with beasts. This sudden idea made Cessna was agitated and distraught. Although Cessna worships the dark clouds very much, she still exits the classroom early in the middle of class. Then, run desperately to the park. At dusk, Cessna came to the park where all the tourists had left. And headed directly to Sherhu Mountain. She climbed up a tree next to Liger Mountain. The tall ginkgo tree hides in the ginkgo tree as if with gold. In the cast heart-shaped leaves, broken eyes flicker in the black eyes. Star-like passion, staring at the intersection leading to Lion-Tiger Mountain. She decided that as soon as the figure of the boy appeared at the intersection, she would. He immediately jumped off the tree and threw himself into his arms. The burning sunball slowly disappears behind the dark green pine trees at the intersection. Already, the blue-gray evening fog has blurred the scene. No one appeared at the swaying intersection but Cessna's eyes. The light was still staring there as if frozen. Later, a cleaning. The worker appeared at the intersection, slowly sweeping the road with a long broom. With fallen leaves. Cessna knew clearly that this would not be that boy, but she, still staring intently at the cleaner until his crooked back disappears in thicker and thicker. In the heavy twilight. In the middle of the night, Cessna climbed down from the ginkgo tree. Her body was useless. Leaning heavily on a rock, she lay on fallen leaves. After midnight Liger. The wild beasts in the mountains began to let out a drawn-out roar. That swaying in the deep black. The howling of beasts in the night sky carries the mood of the distant wilderness. The desire for freedom floats in the heart of a captive beast. Cessna. I felt that the constant howling sounds seemed to combine the dark purple pathos and just intense pain poured into her soul. She folded her arms tightly to her chest. Before, as if embracing the roaring beast that wafted the bloody smell. Howling, embracing the sorrow and pain that belonged to the beast. Not long after this incident, after dinner one day, Cessna took a walk around campus. when she had just stepped onto a stone-paved road. In the narrow path, the fellow who swore to jump into Lion-Tiger Mountain a few days ago. The boy fighting the beast appeared at the other end of the path. Cessna. I thought he would avoid her in shame, but instead, he walked toward her. And still looking personable, as they passed, he even smiled at her cheekily, as if there was something between them. It didn't happen either. At that time, Cessna's face was pale, but unexpectedly. However, she also showed a gentle and bright smile I have never smiled at a man like this. However, her heart is aching. She wept bitterly for her disappointment with the male. Since then, Seth now began to try her best to avoid the gazes of the men. She would rather be in the manga. During the long night, clamping her swollen pussy tightly between her legs, bite your red lips with a fire-burning passion, rather. Intercourse with ferocious beasts in erotic dreams, and unwilling to hug men. That false, pale, timid love affair. She felt that in that love. There are dirty, obscene things. The boy's name was quickly forgotten by Cessna, but yes, the howling of the ferocious beasts that night remained indelibly in her heart. After that, whenever the depression becomes unbearable, she came to the park's Lion-Tiger Mountain alone in the middle of the night, lying beside the rock, listened to the majestic howling sound fascinatedly, and let the beast, the long and loud howls, tore the troubles in her heart to pieces. And tonight, she came to Lion-Tiger Mountain because her relationship with Gara was at the same level. The boundless annoyance of an incomprehensible state. In the spring of 2 years ago, Cessna was on campus to rush to class. While running past in a hurry, a young man with a thin face suddenly attracted his attention. Her attention. Although the young man only stared at her sternly and proudly. After staring at it for a moment, Cessna felt the sharpness of the young man's flickering cold light. Her gaze seems to have engraved the splendid thunder and lightning soul in her heart. Superior. Later, she heard from her classmates that the young man was named Gara, and she is a history student in the same grade and is also on the school polo team. Not long after, Gara came to Cessna's house to visit Titus. General. Only then did Cessna know that Jela's hometown is on the Ergun River. Pan, whose maternal grandfather was a friend of her father's. That summer, Cessna and a group of classmates went to the grassland to spend. One day while hunting, Cessna rode behind Gara, chasing a gazelle shot by a shotgun. Just as they were about to catch up. At that moment, the exhausted gazelle stopped suddenly, and the gray-blue goat. There seemed to be scarlet tears in his eyes, and he turned his head to the chasing. Cessna took a look, and then, gazelle rushed forward, leaping high, placing his head on a sharp edge of a rock. It cracked. Cessna jumped off the horse with Gara and stood silently next to the body of the gazelle that died when it hit the rock. She can't bear to look at Huang. The long, agile legs of the sheep are still twitching violently, and the face is turned away. Up. At that moment, Cessna found Grena standing next to him. Bronze eyes show a distant and desolate artistic conception. And in that extreme place of desolation swayed a gorgeous pathos, that sorrow is like purple blooming on a horizon of cracked rocks. Wildflowers. Suddenly, Cessna felt herself being embraced by Gara. Cuddle. It was so fierce that her flexible waist seemed to be broken. Then, Gara ripped her dress wildly, and her cold hands touched her body. Cessna's body seemed to be hardened. The hard scarlet flame trembled violently as if being caressed. She didn't. There was a struggle, but I just stood there quietly with my shoulders drooping weakly. Here, biting the bloody red lips, enduring the fury of the hard flame. Caress. Her eyes looked sadly over Gara's shoulder. A horizon as shaken by purple wildflowers against the blue sky. Don't know. Why, perhaps because Gara never looked at her, but Looking straight at the sky, Cessna felt that Gera was not stroking. Instead, she was stroking the wilderness affectionately. He seemed to be in the hard and blazing touch of the desolate grassland, with the blooming purple wildflowers blend on the horizon. After returning to Hohhot from the grassland, Cessna discovered that Gera's eyes were hard and cold as rocks again. This color. Sina felt a painful strangeness. And, back in town. Afterward, Gera never hugged her again, and even talking to her made the two of them feel uncomfortable. Keep a certain distance between people. As if Gera's passion for her. They were all lost in that wilderness. Meanwhile, Cessna's a proud heart. It also made her unwilling to take the initiative to get close to Gera. In other words, she felt. In doing so, she insults something beautiful and noble. It is an unnatural thing to fall into Gera's arms in the city. The thing, the erotic flower that once bloomed between her and Gera, seems to be only belong to the beauty of the wilderness. However, this state of the relationship with Gera. However, it often makes Cessna feel irresolvable troubles, only. When a person heard the sad howling of this beast in the middle of the night, she just will feel lighter. All night, Cessna leaned against the solid rock and listened to the fierce. With the roar of the beast, I fell asleep in the early morning. When she woke up, the night had already disappeared in the pale blue lucid silence. Cessna from the rock. He stood up and walked to the lake in the park. The sun has not yet risen, and the morning light dyes the light blue clouds in the sky with a tranquil bright red color. The willows by the lake hang down their long green branches, like a philosopher with long hair and shoulders, bowing his head and meditating. No one on the lake. The silk ripples look very dignified, like a piece of silver-gray water. Silver. Cessna stood by the lake, looking at the lake. Leading to the falls. The round arched stone bridge in the mountains and the wooden pavilion on the small island in the middle of the lake, and the sky. The bright red flowing clouds are reflected in the calm lake water. The reflection seems to be more real and clear than the real scene, and the artistic conception more profound. And this made Cessna feel a little sad. She suddenly. I feel that her love for Gera is also like a beautiful girl reflected in the lake. Like flowing clouds, although it is real, it is just a kind of trembling that cannot be used. The artistic conception of touching hands. Cessna drenched her heart with the sap of the wild hawthorn. Sour and sweet melancholy. After a long time, I squatted down by the lake. Wash your face with cool lake water. When she stood up again, the ball is like a piece of molten gold, behind the dense aspen forest in the distance. Rose. Cessna combed the flowing deep with her slender fingers. With blue light waves and long black hair, he stared directly at Chan with wide eyes. Rotten sun. In the summer of 1957, when Cessna was 12 years old, her mother died. I went to the northern suburbs of Hohhot with General Tegas. He was killed by lightning while walking in the wilderness. People think color. Cessna's mother's death was an accident, but Cessna felt that her mother's death was an accident. The mother knew her fate in advance. Because mother was struck by lightning. The day before he died, he once said to her, "When you miss me in the future, when you are young, just look at the sun. Mother will smile at you in the sun and laugh." When hearing this sentence, an ominous premonition made Cessna weeping uncontrollably. After her mother died, Cessna often looked directly at the golden heliosphere in the early morning, when the blinding sun soon made her. When the eyes become a brilliant burning golden, all the troubles and pains, suffering is gone. At that time she was still a primary school student. Gradually, many of her classmates were with her, looking directly at the sun before class in the morning. As much as possible. Although Cessna has been severely reprimanded by the teacher many times for this. Yes, but she never got rid of this habit. At this moment, Cessna felt that all the troubles of last night were in the golden circle of the heliosphere. After the color melted, she let out a wild, excited cry. Shout. Then she looked away from looking directly at the sun and walked lightly. Go quickly to the wall on the south side of the park. That milky white wall. On the other side is the compound of the Inner Mongolia Song and Dance Troupe. Morning and evening. Those long-legged female dancers in the song and dance troupe often take advantage of the park to watch. The guard didn't pay attention, so he crossed the fence and went for a walk in the garden. At Cessna. As she neared the wall, she noticed that an elderly park keeper. Someone was staring at her suspiciously and viciously from a short distance away and began to attack her. Come. So, Cessna slowed down, as if leisurely. Admire the pale yellow winter jasmine in the garden beside you, and ask the caretaker. The man showed an innocent smile. Maybe it was Cessna's smile that made. The watchman was relieved, and he turned to another path. At this time, a sly look flashed across Cessna's beautiful eyes, and suddenly, he ran to the fence as fast as a deer and jumped onto the fence nimbly. Wall. She sat on the fence, blushing slightly, and waved angrily at her. The caretaker with the dancing arms gave an apologetic look, while a string of sparkling laughter like a splash of mountain spring shone from between the red lips. However, after that, her figure disappeared on the other side of the wall. Cessna walked quickly to the dance rehearsal hall in the compound of the song and dance troupe. Go. Today is the first day of her half-year graduation internship. Sky. She and Tumlin made an appointment to meet at the door of the rehearsal hall at 8 o'clock. Picture. The door is going to take her to see the choreographer and director of the dance drama The Hunter and the Maiden today. Redden Warehouse. When Cessna was about to walk to the rehearsal hall, she prepared for the upcoming. I felt a little uneasy when I saw this director. Cessna had never seen King before, but often hear people in the dance world talk about him. King turned out to be North, a dance teacher and dance drama director at the Central Institute for Nationalities in Beijing. His wife, Z, is the daughter of a senior Communist Party official. It is said that after being drunk, he told his colleagues that he believed in anarchism and commented, "The assertion that the state is the root of all evil is the only political truth." In 1957, it was designated as a bourgeois rightist group by the authorities. Sun was sent to the coal mines in the desert of northwestern China to endure hardship. Service. He was on all fours like a dog in the low, narrow. Coal carts have been pulled for several years in narrow, dark, and damp mines. Later, his divorced wife, perhaps out of emotional guilt, through her father's old connections in the bureaucracy working for him, made him. I was able to leave the coal mine and was transferred to the Inner Mongolia Song and Dance Troupe as a dance drama choreographer. Cessna also knew from people's talk that Tankang. Their personality is extremely withdrawn and gloomy. In addition to directing the actors' rehearsals, he talked to almost no one. Usually, he always hides in a single dormitory with only 9 square meters, the thick curtains in the cabin. Never opened it, not even in the heat of summer. He also rarely receives guests, only the female dancer Wu Yun is occasionally allowed. Su entered his hut, which smelled of bad tobacco and spirits. King was addicted to alcohol. Every weekend, he uses a crumpled. I packed a few bottles of high-alcohol liquor in my dirty book and went to the suburbs alone. Up the wasteland. Sunday night he smelled strong booze. When the chi came back, the eyes were cloudy like a wild dog that ate a dead body. Depressed blood red. A few times, during work hours on Monday mornings, people saw him covered in stains like a homeless bum. Drunk outside the gate of the song and dance troupe. Nevertheless, the Alatan warehouse is still. However, with his talent for dancing, he won the dance. Actors are universally respected, even adored. The female dance he devised. It is enchanting and colorful, but also has a gorgeous and wholly sacrificial sentiment. G's masculine dance often bursts out suddenly in the majestic and vigorous temperament, out of handsome and beautiful poetry, especially according to his choreography. When dancing, the dancer can experience a kind of brilliance coming from the depths of life. Rotten and sad beauty, that is dazzling laughter and deep red pain. The beauty that overlaps, that is the passion that breaks the soul. The blazing beauty of madness. Because of this, most dancers, willing to play a certain role in the title dance or dance drama he designed. Color. In addition, Tuman also told Cessna that Alatan had put the hunting, the dance drama man and girl is said to be the last moment of my soul. Dance. When Cessna came to the door of the rehearsal hall, Tuman was already there, waiting for her. Together they walked into the tall, spacious rehearsal hall. The morning sun slanted in from the window, and the peach blossoms blooming outside the window. The flowers and the lilacs just opening their buds were tinted a reddish color. Tune. A piece of desolate Mongolian dance music floated in the rehearsal hall, more than 10. A girl in a tight-fitting training suit, with her beautiful long legs exposed, is rehearse an episode from The Hunter and the Maiden to dance music. Body dance. As soon as she entered the rehearsal hall, Cessna noticed a sitting in the corner, an old man who was so emaciated that his body was almost dry. She intuitively, I feel that it is the dance drama director Alatan King. Cessna heard of Allah. Tansang is only in his 50s, but he looks very, very old, his cheeks sunken deeply, his complexion blue. Gray, only those who have long been mercilessly tortured by a cruel fate will. Has that complexion, his hair is gray and dry. The back of the head, under the thinning hair on the top of the head, reveals a pale scalp. The nose is very sharp as if it is about to pierce the blue-gray dry skin. His skin revealed the sharp nasal bone, his eyes showed a dark, fixed, heavy iron gray, occasionally flashing nervously from the depths of the eyes. The frenzy of light, like the remnants of a shattered blazing dream. And every time the light passed his eyes it made him pale. There was a hard, sculptured look to the old, thin features. At this time, Alatan Kingdom became demented due to excessive drinking and smoking. Dark purple dry lips, frozen with a sharp mocking god. Passionate, iron-gray eyes squinting coldly at the rehearsal group. Girl. The faces of the girls gradually showed more and more apprehension. Uneasy mood. From Alatan's squinting eyes, they didn't know anything. There is no doubt that the choreographer is extremely dissatisfied with their rehearsal. So, they made all kinds of efforts to make their dance look like charming. A flirtatious young girl walks from Alatan King. Dances, even erotically seductively, on his sharp nose. She twisted her plump buttocks a few times in front of her. However, Alatan King's, their eyes are getting darker and more openly disgusted. Look. The girls were finally disappointed. Although dance music is not yet. There was an end, but they stopped dancing in frustration and stood in the rehearsal hall. Joan looked listlessly at Alatan King. Alatan King lowered his head, letting the gray and white withered grass hair hides his face. In silence, he suddenly lifts and flashes, staring at the group of girls with wildly bright eyes, with a sharp tone. Said, true dance is the poeticization of the body, through the physical. The noble and fertile feelings shown. What are you doing? In bed. Stepping on my dancing posture, destroying my dancing posture, you have no reason at all. Understand the affection contained in my dancing posture. Body twist without emotion. It's not worthy of being called a dance, it's no different from a mating bitch. Do not. The group of girls showed indifference on their faces, looking at A. Redden Warehouse. They were not offended by his foul language, but rather, on the contrary, as if hearing something interesting, he let out a burst of pressure. Suppressed low laughter. Alaton Kang's voice suddenly stopped. Silence for a while. Then he said in a low, tired voice, "Stop rowing. Practice for a week. You go into the wilderness when you want. To sleep with purple sunsets in my arms, to kiss the sky splitting thunder and lightning. When do you want to lean against the poplar tree and tell the wind? Love, wanting to stand on a steep mountain and chant poems, then waiting for you to come back, because it is this desolate plateau that gave birth to Mongolian music and dance. There's the soul of Mongolian dance in the wilderness, you. Let's go. I hope that when you come back, your dancing can make my eyes burn up." After speaking, Alaton Kang bowed his head deeply again. Skull, and withered as if exposed to the cold wind. Body. The expressions of the group of girls became serious, and they stood on tiptoe. Tip. As if he was afraid of alarming the Alatan warehouse, he walked as lightly as possible to the platoon. Walk outside the training hall. The guy who just twisted his ass in front of the tip of Alatan's nose. The young girl, who had already reached the door, suddenly ran back quickly, going to Alaton Kang's side, like a little girl, pursing her lips. Kissed the tip of Alaton Kang's sharp nose lightly, whispering. Said, "Don't be sad, we must find the soul of your dance. The soul is sure to make your eyes burn." Alaton Kang still hung his head, his voice dry. Say, "Oh, don't you ever wiggle your ass like that again, ugly man. Just like to see women's asses that lack emotion and beautiful girls' asses. Stocks should be noble, only under the gaze of a real man will they be full." Writhing emotionally. 2 flakes of shy red rose from the girl's cheeks. Dizzy, but she let out a bright laugh and ran out of the rehearsal hall. Tumun led Husna to the side of Alaton Kang and asked him. Introducing Cessna. Alaton Kang still bowed his head, sitting there, without looking at Cessna. She just said indifferently, "The dark cloud is going to. I recommended you, but this is useless. The key depends on whether you can understand the dance. Have you read the script of the dance drama? Feel. How do you feel?" "Yes, I've seen it." Cessna didn't finish speaking, and stopped. A few days ago, she saw the hunter at Tumun's residence with the girl script. The plot of the dance drama is that in the Mongolian grassland above, a handsome hunter falls in love with a beautiful maiden. The hunter was bewitched by the basilisk and became evil. At last, the beautiful maidens dance in flames, and with the burning dance free the hunter. However, the girl turned into the sky and the flames. Sunset glow. At that time, Cessna felt that the plot of the script had no special features. Special attraction. Because those plots are the same as those in many folklore. The stories are all the same. Now, she took a deep breath, still. You wondered whether he should express his true thoughts. She thinks. Aratan Kangna protrudes like a hump in the bowed posture of the head. His back looked so sad, she couldn't bear to make him unhappy anymore. But he didn't want to tell lies to him. So she was a little nervous. Said, "I think the plot of the script is too simple, too general." Episode? Alaton Kang said this in a disgusted tone. Words, as if the word was a dirty thing. At the same time, he gave Cessna a quick sideways glance, not so much trying to see Cessna, rather he meant to show his displeasure with a contemptuous squint. Angry. Then he said in a hoarse, piercing voice, "What do you know?" "What?" "Dance is a poem of form, and poetry does not need a plot. Only vulgar Philistines need a plot because they have no real emotion, but only the stinky instinct and the cold reason like a snake. Sex, they don't have the soul to indulge in poetry, they have to grab the plot with their dirty paws. They can only rely on the cumbersome plot to understand life. And dance is the rhythm of emotion, a kind of surge. Now, it is a kind of unrestrained, bloody broken, crazy shaking. Drag is a quiet falling. Real dancing doesn't need a plot, No need for a plot, all you need to pay attention to is the dance I designed. There's my understanding of the beauty of Mongolia written with blood. An understanding of the fate of Mongolia. Alatinkang stood up abruptly, his legs trembling nervously. Then, he started to walk up and down on the waxed pine floor. He goes. He moved very quickly, but Cessna felt that there was a kind of gait in his gait. The heavy feeling of depression is like trudging along rusty chains. Exist. While walking back and forth nonstop, Alatinkang used desperate and painful. The tone continued, however, I have to wrap up my dancing posture. The dirty laundry of the plot, otherwise, those political officials, those cultural prosecutors, those pigs whose heads are full of materialistic concepts, will think my ballet is heresy. Oh, they only deserve to be tacky. Lives within the plot so do not tolerate any beauty higher than the plot. But, what do you say about the plot too? Aratan glared at Cessna angrily and stopped abruptly. Pace. He wanted to say something malicious to Cessna. However, in the eyes with Cessna, he has opened his mouth, but did not continue to make a sound. Since Cessna walked into the rehearsal hall. Finally, this is the first time that Alatinkang stared at her, gazing at her. Her eyes. The look of contempt and anger gradually changed from Alatinkang's. The face faded, and the iron-gray, sullen eyes slowly seeped. A vast joy. Alatinkang slowly backed away. Go, while gazing closely at Krishna, as if worried to move slightly. Move your eyes, and a beautiful and charming dream will emerge from his vision. Drifting away. Cessna felt Alatinkang's gaze at the moment. At once. Like boundless grass waves shining with silver-gray sunlight, with the swift wind. Swaying and undulating, it came to her heart from the distant sky. Oh, there is sunshine in her eyes, her beauty is enough to make the Mongols proud. Alatan said in a daze. With that, he retreated to the tape recorder. He is still obsessed with Cessna. Watching, groping with twisted fingers smashed in hard labor. Then, put a tape on the tape recorder. Immediately float into the rehearsal hall. Swing is an ancient Mongolian court dance music. Cessna is familiar with that. The rich and desolate melody she chose during the last school year's exam. I danced to this piece of music. Cessna tried to keep her breath in the same breath as the dance music. May's rhythm fluctuates, and soon enters the artistic conception of dance music. It seems to see a huge golden tint appearing on the vast grass. On the plain, it is like the sun sphere that has just risen half of the horizon. In Lee's large tent, a group of brave generals of Genghis Khan. Drinking, using a war knife to strike hard joints on the iron armor covered with blood rust. Playing, roaring like beasts singing the mournful battle of blood and rain. Song. So, Cessna smiled brightly, and in the golden tent, danced charmingly for the group of iron-blooded men. Alatansong looked at Husna's dance in surprise. He was ashen. Passion is turbulent in the black eyes, like a storm from the thick cloud. Plenty of clouds descended. Suddenly, he chanted a psalm aloud. Said, excellent, it's like dancing to the golden Sunday. The beauty of the wilderness. The music had stopped for quite a while before Alatinkang seemed like a mammoth. As if she had come to her senses, she strode up to Cessna's side. A slap on her hip. Cessna heard the beat. Slapping sound, and feel the muscles of my buttocks being slapped coquettishly. Trembling. However, this did not make her feel shy. Looking into Alatinkang's eyes in a daze, he couldn't help thinking, oh, iron gray can also be such a scorching color. However, there seems to be something missing in your dancing posture. What? Alatinkang suddenly frowned his bushy eyebrows again and said. Hajime paced rapidly to and fro on the floor. The tone said to himself, what is missing? Deep tenderness. Beauty. Legal servility? Holy sacrifice? No, neither. Accurate, seems like an inappropriate pride masking some of the most charming beauty. Alatonkang was dismayed by his inability to express his feelings accurately. I shook my gray messy hair irritably and stopped suddenly. Come, asked Cessna, do you know why I chose Tumandang? Actor? Anyone can see that his body shape is not suitable for expressing the image of a brave Mongolian man. Not finished. Alatonkang quickly walked to the tape recorder and changed another disc. Belt, and said aloud to Tumun, come, my hunter. After the prelude to the dance music, Tumun swings back wildly. He shook his head and danced to the melody of the music. Cessna immediately surprised to find that during the dance, Tumun completely changed. He does not. No matter how delicate the impression is, the complexion no longer seems to be pale. A masculine splendor shines through his dance, a mighty unrestrained sense, a masculine resolute and heroic temperament. Alatonkang walked to Cessna's side again, iron-gray eyes. Boundless joy welled up in the depths of his eyes, looked at Tumun, and said, 4 months ago, after the last heavy snow last winter, I went to the countryside. Go and drink strong wine with the snow field. That day, the weather was cold and the sky was so blue. Like frozen seawater, there is no one on the snow field. I sit on the snow. Guzzled and saw the figure of Tumun appearing in the distance on a snow-covered on the hill. I sat in the ice and snow and drank all afternoon, and he also has been standing on the hill. At first, I don't know what he was doing. In the evening, the howling wind blew up the white snow all over the sky. Dust, he suddenly recited the poem loudly, facing the flying snow dust. Running towards the sunset in the sky, as if to embrace the crimson sun. Ball. At that time, I realized that he stood in the cold snow field all day. The above is for poetic inspiration, where it was reflected in the sunset glow into bright red. In the snow and dust, his galloping figure looked so beautiful, like a bird. The golden stag, my several dances are based on his galloping silhouette design. Oh, at that time, I hadn't finished the hunting. However, I immediately decided to choose him as the hero. Because he understands this plateau, he is willing to. He ran to the blizzard for poetry, he had a soul that belonged to the wilderness. Soul, he can find the blazing male spirit in the desolation of the plateau. Beautiful. On this day, when Cessna left, Alatonkang told her he agreed with her to join the hunter and the girl crew for an internship. However, whether she can become the girl in the play depends on her. During the rehearsal, can he find what he can't express accurately now, her? The feeling that is missing in the dancing.